So my friends and I went and saw the Minecraft movie, not because we expected it to be good, but because we were hoping it would at least be ironically funny. Normally when we go out to the movies, it's for something we're looking forward to, or think looks interesting, or generally is something we think we'll legitimately enjoy. But every once in a while, it's nice to go have fun seeing something we know is going to be bad. Even just recently, I was having the time of my life with Red One, and discussing how bad Borderlands was as we got pizza after made for one of the best days of last year for me. As for Minecraft, yeah, I didn't get too much out of this. I feel like it was a bit of a foregone conclusion from those trailers that the story wouldn't be any good, and yeah, it's pretty much every generic kid's adventure cliche ever. It hits every single beat you expect it to, and doesn't do anything interesting with them. Consider this a spoiler warning, as if there's anything worth avoiding spoilers for. Henry hears his sister say something not very nice about him and he gets mad. Then they're separated for half the movie and make up immediately when they reunite. I think the whole bit with them is the sister wanting to be a good caretaker after their parents died, which feels like a complete afterthought. Jason Momoa takes them on a detour to get some diamonds because he's broke, and the kid has another falling out with him going into the third act so that he can redeem himself because we really needed to lean into the heroic sacrifice, which ends up being an obvious fake out death so that he can come in and save the day at the last minute, and who cares? Apparently he used Steve's water bucket trick to save himself from the fall. The water bucket that he's never established to have because his bucket nunchucks are empty every time we see them. The landlord lady barely has a reason to even be there beyond training some dogs, which have such an insignificant role in the final battle that you could write them out completely and change nothing. She mentions needing to work a ton of jobs, which is the start of something being done with her. Then by the end she doesn't develop much at all. Her problems are all magically solved because she brings a square dog home. Riveting. There's this completely worthless subplot with a villager going to Earth and hooking up with a vice principal. This goes absolutely nowhere, never even interacting with the main plot, and the conclusion to it is thrown in the credits, where the big punchline is Matt Berry. For as much as I love the sound of Matt Berry's voice, that was not worth it at all. In general, none of these characters are interesting. All they really get from the Minecraft world is the resources they need to do better in life. The most that anyone changes is that Jason Momoa has friends now and the sister can fight, I guess. To give the movie its credit, I do like the messaging it tries to get across about getting your creativity out there. They show how the boring real world can stifle that. And both Henry and Steve use Minecraft as a form of escapism, before realizing by the end that they need to return and bring their creativity into reality. I think having this be yet another going into an alternate world story was a deeply flawed premise, but they actually did give it some kind of purpose. On paper anyway. All they really do with it is Steve works a boring office job, and have Henry get picked on by the most generic bully characters that have ever been written. They also have every single character recite the entire theme of the film at every opportunity and leave no room for you to figure it out for yourself, so that's cool. I love when that happens. It's a story so by the numbers and boring that I did not care about, with a cast so bland that every time they tried to be emotional, I just did not give a shit. I never expected anything different to that though. I mean, this is the funny meme movie where Jack Black says insert over-the-top line delivery from the trailers here. As long as the movie could keep me entertained, ironically or otherwise, that would have been enough for me. Unfortunately, this did not end up being the hilariously bad work of art that I found Red One to be. I was mostly just bored out of my mind watching it. The actual jokes they try to tell usually go along the lines of, the sheep just threw up a little. Jack Black and Jason Momoa are singing a silly little song to distract the illagers. Character observes a weird Minecraft thing and goes, excuse me sauce? This character's name is General Chungus and he says the word unalive. Malbolgia laughs and explains how the Iron Golem army won't attack unless provoked, and then one of her dipshit soldiers immediately attacks one without any prompting. Again, to be fair, there were a few bits that I liked. Jason Momoa got exactly 2 unironic chuckles from me during the film, which was 3 more than I was expecting. When Henry asks him to pretend to be his uncle and pick him up from school and he responds with, nah, I don't do that anymore. And someone gushes over Steve killing 20 zombies only for him to brush it off with, who's more like 15. I actually found those a bit funny. The same with him saying he's more like a sister to Henry than his actual sister. There's also a bit where he knocks Steve out with his bucket nunchucks that I didn't dislike, and a decent payoff about him recognizing the cologne that Henry's sister gave him while going on about the same signature scent stuff. It was an alright gag that wasn't overly explained and didn't overstay its welcome. The other characters get a handful of good bits too. I really like the final scene with the villain trying to sneak attack Steve with the small knives. Dawn tells Steve that he smells before they go back to Earth, and I thought that was amusing. One of the bullies goes, my dad says math is debunked, which is the closest I got to a non-Jason Momoa laugh for my entire viewing. Dennis throws a frisbee, which Jack Black catches like a dog. That's not a bad visual gag. No, okay, I think that might have actually been everything. Every other joke they try to tell is pretty dire. Oh, but those aren't the stars of the show here, though. This film has built its reputation on how Jack Black spends an hour and a half pointing at Minecraft things and saying what they are. Yeah, he's just strolling on set in a unisex turquoise blouse and being himself rather than playing a character. That much is obvious, which is a shame because I do really like Jack Black. I'd hate to see him become another one of those generic low-effort celebrity castings. The charisma he brings is occasionally fun here, especially when paired with Jason Momoa, but Jack Black says the names of things from the game in an epic voice can only sustain a film for so long. To be clear, I find the memes surrounding the trailers funny. My friends and I quote the lines at each other all the time, but considering almost all of them are in the trailers already, there's only so much mileage I can get out of seeing them again as everyone else in the room gives a standing ovation. Alright, yeah, so you may have seen recordings going around the screenings where people clap at the big meme lines, give a standing ovation, throw popcorn, whatever else. UK cinemas are apparently notoriously quiet, like even the showing of Endgame that I went to was practically dead silent. Yeah, even I couldn't escape it here. If that sounds like your kind of environment, then sure, go have your fun I guess, as long as you're not being actively disruptive to the other people watching it. I've seen a lot of people say that this added to the experience for them. For me though, it did the opposite. The room erupted into applause constantly, and if it were only for a few lines then I wouldn't really have minded. I knew to expect it as a possibility going in. Save it for I Am Steve and or Chicken Jockey and I probably would have found it funny. Hearing it constantly though, the bit wore out its welcome very quickly for me. I forget if it happened for I Yearn for the Mines, but as soon as they started going for flint and steel in the first 2 minutes, I could tell that was a bad omen for how the rest of this was gonna go. By the time it got to Chicken Jockey, I was just so damn tired of the bit and wanted it to be over. There were multiple points where the people right in front of me would pull out their phones to record another one of the awesome reactions, and each one had me going, oh god, another one? I obviously don't hold that against the movie itself. All of this is to say it's not getting any bonus points for me for ironic enjoyment. Then there's the visual style of the movie. Yet another way in which it was flawed from its inception. I don't know why so many video game movies adamantly refuse to be animated or feel the need to incorporate our reality for some reason. As much as I love the Sonic movies, it's very strange to make them live action with a few CGI characters that only gradually starts to work in actual Sonic things. Minecraft is even weirder to me because most of it does take place in an animated world. Yet instead of committing to being fully animated, they feel the need to throw in a live action cast and make it a hybrid with our world. The whole film is about trying to get out of Minecraft, and there are large stretches not even set in it, so it's not as much of a Minecraft movie as I would have hoped, on top of being absolutely hideous to look at. For what it's worth, the CGI artists did do a good job with what they were tasked to do. It's just that what they were tasked to do inherently did not work, taking these cartoony blocky designs and using This Will Be graphics in 2013 as their point of reference. The villagers will be appearing in my nightmares for years to come. It is embarrassing that small-scale YouTube productions have been making infinitely better looking Minecraft animations for well over a decade. Speaking of unfavorable comparisons to YouTube videos, the green screening and compositing is not great. It hardly ever looks like the live action people are ever actually in this world. Whenever they're running towards the camera, it looks like a shitty YouTube sketch. Except with the inherent loss of charm you get going from one dude goofing off making stuff for fun and a $150 million corporate product. The live action elements and desire for realism are an active hindrance. Why are video game movies still afraid to look like they're more cartoony source material? I also promised my friend that I'd mention practically every shot being backlit. Wasn't something I picked up on much because I don't know the ins and outs of how that works, but I do agree the lighting is very bland. Everyone's harped on those points already though. One thing I haven't seen brought up as much is that a lot of scenes end up being really weirdly edited and directed. Like, things would awkwardly jump from one part of a scene to the next and it could get a little disorienting. An example I made a mental note of so that I'd have something to bring up is Henry running from the Illagers. He's running towards a door that I'm pretty sure I remember being closed. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that. It cuts to the Illagers chasing him, then it cuts back to him having already gone through the door and in the process of closing it again. Or when they're in the mushroom house. Henry's unconscious, Steve and Dawn go outside, then it cuts back inside to Henry having already woken up and in the middle of a conversation with his sister, and also the others are already back inside again? Did I miss the part where he woke up? Genuine question, because I know there's a non-zero chance I zoned out for 10 seconds, but I also don't have enough faith in the movie to give it that benefit of the doubt. So the story, jokes and visuals are the main areas that everyone's been talking about and the ones I had the most to say on, but I got at least a few other miscellaneous things I want to bring up before I close the video off. The movie has several musical numbers chambers, and almost all of them are in one ear and out the other. The lava chicken one is so lame, I'm sorry. It is even more desperately trying to be a meme than Peaches was, except without the decency to at least be visually interesting or funny in concept. Nothing happens during it, everyone just stands still, it's so boring. With that said, I kind of enjoyed the final number during the dance party ending, not even because of the cliche or because the song itself is that good, I just thought it carried enough energy to be mildly entertaining. I had a little bit of fun with it, and I really couldn't tell you why. The big hoglin was such a nothing obstacle. It gets built up, dies after one scene, they replace him for the final battle like they were changing a pair of shoes, and then he barely does anything. At least nothing that stuck with me enough to remember when writing this. What was even the point? Why not bring in the Wither or something as the Nether's big guns? That would have maybe been a little bit cool to see it go against the golems. Dennis kind of picks and chooses whenever he wants to show up. He's right behind the protagonist going into the mine at the start, yet for some reason doesn't follow after them for ages and then doesn't do anything until Dawn tames him. Yeah, there's a scene where Dawn and Natalie are beating up a zombie, then Dennis shows up and Dawn reaches for a bone on the ground which seemingly spawned out of nowhere? Was that supposed to be a drop from the zombie? I don't think that's how that works. Speaking of the zombies though, one small W I will give for the movie translating the game's designs is that the additional movements of the zombies let them be way creepier than if they stuck rigidly to the arm-extended slow walk. They get to contort themselves and drag themselves around and it looks kinda good. The creeper's blowing up too. It's a cool detail that they glow before the explosion and illuminate their insides. Again, when separated from the inherently unappealing art style, the CGI artists did a pretty good job. One mob that got the short end of the stick though was the Enderman. Steve makes a whole big deal about, I almost died fighting an Enderman to get that Ender Pearl, as if they're supposed to be a big threat. Later, Henry looks one in the eyes, his visions of everyone hating him, which are never addressed again. Steve even becomes Herobrine for it, hell yeah. Then he closes his eyes and swings mindlessly and kills the Enderman immediately without taking a single hit. Top 10 action scenes of all time, number 1, literally anything except this. While I didn't notice the score much, one thing I did notice was the first entrance to Minecraft having a rendition of the main theme, and it sounded quite nice. They also play Pigstep at one point, and it made me happy because I exclusively associate that song with Alan Becker now. I don't keep up with much Minecraft stuff nowadays, not even the main game itself, but god, animation versus Minecraft is so good. For a film that pushes creativity so much, there wasn't as much of it as I'd like. All the cool building stuff is restricted to the opening montage. Anything after that is mostly basic fortresses. The kid does make some things that aren't normally achievable in the game, which is cool. I like that it pushes the creativity theme, but the extent of it is just a tater tot gun and a slightly faster iron golem. They really don't go all that far with it. There's a bit where Jason Momoa activates a trap and gets bounced off a slime block, and it's like the one time the movie doesn't announce what something is. Later on, Steve needs to use one to get somewhere, and I would have respected if they just had him use it and pay off the unexpected setup without needing to draw attention to it. You've seen the trailers, this line isn't even in them, but you know what happens anyway. And one last thing to bring up to end on a positive note, the Technoblade reference. Even as someone who never watched his stuff, it was heartbreaking to hear that he passed at such a young age. So for this film to pay tribute to him and further cement the mark that he's made on the community was actually quite sweet. Is the one time my theatre gave an applause for something not in the trailers, and honestly fair enough. Assuming they weren't doing it ironically like they were for every other time, but I'd like to believe it was sincere. And with all that laid out, that's about the gist of my thoughts on the Minecraft movie. Did not much care for it or the viewing experience. Honestly might have been the most draining cinema visit of my life, because any other comparably bad films I've gone out to see were mostly at a younger age where I could enjoy them at the time and only grew to dislike them afterwards. And even the ones I disliked at the time still had more for me to get an ironic laugh out of with my friends. I had way more fun riffing on stuff like Black Adam, Borderlands, and the Emoji Movie. This one just made me feel empty. You will never be Atlas Autoshield. If this is something you're set on seeing, don't let this video discourage you from going out and having fun with your friends. I'd just say to read the room beforehand. Like, don't be screaming and clapping if the theatre is full of kids and parents who are seeing it earnestly. And don't be throwing popcorn regardless, that's just shitty to the theatre workers. And if you do like the movie, that's obviously fine. Whether you had a laugh with your mates or sincerely found it enjoyable, all the more power to you. It was just very much not for me, even as someone who had a big Minecraft phase growing up, being deep in the trenches of all the YouTube videos and song parodies long before I had access to the game. If I want to rewatch a gloriously bad video game movie that'll actually bring me some semblance of joy, I'll revisit Pixels over this any day of the week. If you're on the fence about seeing it or aren't as interested in the memes or whatever, I don't think I could recommend this one. I've seen plenty of great stuff in cinemas this year already, including stuff that's much better to show your kids. Don't know how many of these will still be playing or in which countries, but I'd say they're all much more worth your time if you want something that's actually good. That seems like about as natural of a stopping point as any, since I don't know how else to lead into the outro, so this is where I'll close off. I hope you liked this little first impressions video. With any luck, I'll find the motivation to do another one later in the year on something I actually like, and not miss the window like I did for Sonic and Paddington last year. Whether for that or one of my longer ranking projects I have in the works, I'll see you around for whatever I upload next. Have a good one.